So, Carter, the news coming down maybe 20 minutes or so before we came on the air at 11 a.m. Eastern time here on this Tuesday. Sounds like the announcement of the hiring is imminent for Spencer Carbery, of course, the now former Leafs assistant coach. Sounds like he's going back to Washington, which makes a lot of sense to be the first time NHL coach in his career. Of course, he's got a lot of coaching experience and a lot of experience with the Washington Capitals organization. He coached ECHL South Carolina, AHL Hershey. And quite frankly, I love when guys finally get the opportunity, because I do think a lot of guys are recycled. Like Peter Laviolette's going on his fifth Metro Division team.
Yeah, it's nice. Sometimes it gets a bit annoying when you're like, you just see these
Oh,
coaches pop up again and again and again. And then you finally get someone who gets a chance to be the head guy in the NHL. And I think there's that familiarity with a lot of those players. He spent a lot of time in Hershey and South Carolina. He's been in the system. He understands how the organization runs. And there's obviously that, which is great. And you see the productivity he's done with Toronto, running the power play and managing these star players. You go to Washington and you're getting those star players right back, right? They have a lot of guys that are a little long in the tooth that are still an unbelievable offensively gifted team, and he's going to fit right in. It's going to be exciting to see what he can do. And my time in Toronto, he was always so nice to me and great, and he's such a good person. I'm excited for him, and it's a huge opportunity, but it definitely leaves a hole in the Leafs coaching staff.
yeah. Right away when this news went down, I couldn't help but think of Bruce Boudreau, who's ran a power play in his career once or twice, known for his offense. I do think this could be like the perfect fit, taking nothing away from Spencer Carbery, but like even, Manny Malhotra, when he had a shot at this power play, was really, really successful. And again, I'm taking nothing away from the job Carbery did. There's a reason why the Leafs power play was outstanding the last couple of years. But I think a fresh voice could be beneficial. I don't know if it's going to be Boudreau, but I'm certainly vouching for a guy like Boudreau. Do you like that fit? A guy like Gabby coming into the mix, a former NHL head coach. Maybe he's got the opportunity to be a coach again in this league, but potentially to run this power play.
Yeah, maybe, that experience too, right? He's been around the league for a long time, and especially behind the bench, right? Like you have Malhotra, you have Keith, who still isn't, as long and as much of a veteran, but maybe there's some different
Yeah.
takes that he's going to have and some experience managing. He's managed older players, newer players, and different elements, and he's been through a lot pressure season and seasons where you've done well, played bad. He's kind of seen it all, so you have that to rely on even for Keith, which could have a big effect. And his resume doesn't lie. He's a lot of success, and he's one of those guys. Like I think he's loved by most teams he coaches for, from what I've heard. And he's definitely a character, but he knows his game, and it'd be really exciting. I think the fans would definitely embrace him.
And most importantly, a frequent visitor to Leafs Morning Take. We love Gabby Boudreau on this show. What's your take as a former goalie in this league to the Leafs power play? Because the big story around these parts has been how great and successful they are in the regular season. Then it gets to the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's a whole different ball game. They were 2 for 11, by the way, in that Florida series this year.
It's just the playoffs. The time and space just disappears. Part of me is like gets frustrated by it because you go through the regular season and you have more freedom, there's more space, where all of a sudden now the playoffs start and the game changes, right? We talk about different players that are better in the playoffs, where sometimes it's frustrating in the sense of now you have to change your game because you're playing in the playoffs, which always seems like BS because you have the refs calling it differently. Things are not getting called unless it's like a blatant scoring chance. So now you have these skilled players where we want to promote the game. We want Matthews, we want Marner, we want Nylander, these high end plays. All of a sudden, we just want to chucks in front of the net, grinding it out. So I always find that a bit of a gray area, especially as like managing a team and a power play. How do we get ourselves ready to be successful in the regular season and then transition into the playoffs? So it's definitely one of those areas I think we need to find some common ground between playoffs and regular season, especially if we want to promote the game with these high-end players, which at the end of the day, that's what everybody wants.
Yeah, and to me, I think the one thing I would try is having different looks when it comes to the zone entries. Like we all know what's going to happen. They're popping it back to Marner. They're popping it back to Matthews. One guy's going to take it, one's not, or they're going to pass it back and forth and gain the blue line. And then when they do get in, I think it's important to have different looks. But again, easier said than done. You even look at a team like Edmonton, who is just so unbelievable. Like they're generational on the power play. And it just shows you the margin for error razor thin in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So we'll see what comes to fruition there. That is the latest. Spencer Carbery, Leafs assistant, sounds like he is bound for Washington to be their head coach.